mission, should you choose to accept it.
It's a quest. It's a quest for fun.
Well, The Rock says, why don't we just cut right to the chase?
Okay, now he wants to get together. Well, he wants to talk.
I want you to do me a favor. I want you to tell all your friends about me.
It's showtime, folks!
What are you?
Happy New Year and welcome to the season premiere of And I Quote, the weekly show where we interview content creators of all shapes and sizes. Join us from any and all corners of the nerd universe, and we find out what projects they have planned for the future. I am your host, Ryan of Nerd Culture, and to kick our new season off, we have someone who is a writer, documentary filmmaker, and a million other things that this young man has done. Please welcome the one, the only, Glenn B. Fleming. Glenn, welcome to the program and Happy New Year. How are you?
Happy New Year, Ryan. Thanks for having me on. I'm feeling full of flu at the moment, but I'm okay.
Well, we are very happy that you are with us despite being a bit under the weather. We wish you to get well soon.
I'm just glad it's not COVID. I've done the test, it's not, but I was just worried for a few minutes, while you do the test. But otherwise, yeah, I'm great.
Fantastic. The last thing we need is someone else to be stricken down with something known as Corona Miley Cyrus. We want that to get out of here and never come back ever again. I can't take credit for those words. I will give credit to the one and only BKM. Brian K. Morris, we mentioned your name. You know what you got to do right now, buddy? You got to take another shot. There you go. So, by the way, if you have any questions for our guest, Glenn B. Fleming, during any course of this program, leave it in the live chat, leave it in the comments. We will be taking those as they come in. But in the meantime, Glenn, to kick things off, what would you say were some of your favorite books or writers growing up?
Ooh. Well, certainly Jack Kirby. I think Stan Lee was a good dialoguer. I don't think he wrote the stories. That's a debate that are never ending. But there's a few English people like Alan Moore, people like that. I like Neil Gaiman, those kind of people. And books, I like Arthur Clarke, Isaac Asimov, Robert Silverberg. There's lots of influences on my work. But I've seen some brilliant stuff over the years.
Oh, absolutely. Good names, some good titles there that you tossed into the mix for good measure. Now, when did you specifically decide to become a writer?
I don't think you decide. I don't think anybody sort of sits down and thinks I'm going to be that. I really don't. But myself, I wrote my first book when I was 8. Now, that sounds very grand, but it was I don't know whether you've heard of Jerry Anderson, the Thunderbirds and things like that.
I believe so, yes.
The marionette shows.
Mm-hmm.
Well, he had a series back in the mid-60s called Stingray, and I wrote a book about that when I was 8. And it was only 20 pages long, but I think for an 8-year-old, writing it out longhand is quite an achievement. I don't have it now. I wish I did. So I was 8, and I've always written and drawn comics all since then.
Oh, wow. That is truly amazing. Now, what would you say are some of the biggest rewards about being a writer?
You get to create a lot of situations. You're in control of your characters, or you should be. You've got to be really disciplined to write a book. I think if you've got a character in a situation you're writing from A to Z. You've got to get from A to Z, get through the book. And if you start flying off at tangents, then you should be writing a different book. But I think that the greatest thing about writing is the expression. It's a solitary thing. I don't mind that. I like my own company. But I think it's the control and to create these situations in universes and worlds or whatever you want to call it.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Absolutely. Now, on the flip side of things, what do you say are some of the biggest challenges about being a writer?
Getting your work out there, as simple as that. Just having somebody read it, go through it, tell you what you're doing right and tell you what you're doing wrong. Lots of pitfalls, but because it's a long process, you can spend a lot of time and then somebody will rip it apart. But you tend to be selective who you show first, because you don't necessarily want somebody who will just tell you it's great, but you don't want to show it the garbage man, because he doesn't know how to write books.
No, that's completely fair. I must say. Once again, we're talking with writer, documentary filmmaker, editor extraordinaire Glenn B Fleming. Make sure you're sharing this video with all 300 of your closest friends. They're gonna like the way they look after watching this video. I guarantee it. If you have any questions for him, let us know in the live chat. Let us know in the comments. We'd be more than happy to take those as we go throughout the course of the show. Now, have there been any special memories for you from being at conventions or book signings, whether you're there as an attendee or whether you're there as a vendor selling your books?
Yeah, there was one in where was I, in London, I think in the 80s, and Walter Simonson, you know, he used to draw Thor, and he's a great artist and writer, Walter Simonson. He was being interviewed by a magazine, and so I sort of just tagged on to the end of this thing, and these guys were asking him what I call silly questions like, what's Thor going to do in the next issue? And well, my answer to that would have been just wait. But he was very diplomatic and very nice, and he was explaining. And then what happened was that he was called away to a panel. So the little interview broke up, and he went away. The guys doing the book, doing the magazine, they went away as well. And I was just standing there. And about 5 minutes later, he came back. And he said to me, where's the other guys? I said, they've gone. He said, oh, do you want to chat? I was enjoying the chat with me, but the panel has been delayed. So I got to chat with him for another 30 minutes without silly questions being asked, you know what I mean? And I was asking him about artwork and his production techniques and all this kind of thing. I had a really good chat with him. It was a really nice bloke. You know, Walter Simonson, he's a really good guy, and his wife is lovely as well, Louise. She's both people. I met both of them; they were great.
Oh man, goodness gracious, that is truly amazing. That's one heck of a memory to hold on to, if I do say so myself. Now, what advice would you give to aspiring writers out there?
Oh, just keep doing it. Keep writing. I write every day. It doesn't have to be about anything or for anything. I just, you know, it's like a sports person practicing, you know, swinging the bat or whatever they do, and keeping fit. You know, it doesn't have to have a purpose, but you've got to discipline yourself. You've got to make yourself do it. And like I said, it doesn't necessarily have to be part of your project, but just keep those thoughts moving, and keep tabs of what you're doing with those little outtakes, so to speak, because you can develop them later. Just keep doing it. Keep doing it.
All right. I can truly dig that. By the way, Ted Davies Artistry is here with us. I know that person. He asked a question. Glenn, do you prefer tea or coffee? Laugh out loud.
He knows the answer to that. I only drink coffee when I'm in the United States.
Oh, okay.
I drink tea and red wine. Not at the same time.
No, I was going to say, that's a bit too heavy, isn't it?
Yeah.
I don't know. Goodness gracious. Well, thank you so much, Ted Davies Artistry, for being with us. We do appreciate it. And thank you for the question. Great question. I mean, a bit humorous, but hey, listen, it's okay. There's no shame in that. And speaking of, you know, we mentioned Ted Davies a moment ago. I'm just curious, who would you say are some of your favorite writers now that don't start and end with Ted Davies?
Brian Morris.
Yeah, BK, Brian
No,
K.
Ted's
Morris,
good.
aka the Mr. Rogers of the interwebs, as I like to call him. BK Morris, you mentioned your name again. You got to take another one, buddy.
Yeah. Joe D. McPhee.
Yeah.
Randy Zimmerman.
Mm-hmm.
All these, you know, these people. You know, it's the usual suspects. You know.
I may have heard some of these names, I think, you know, at a time or two. Round up the usual suspects. Sorry, I'm starting to think of a 1942 film that celebrates its 80th birthday later this year.
Well,
I know 80 years for that little indie film.
Even I wasn't around when that was around.
Yeah. Well, still,
it's my birthday next week.
Really?
Yeah.
Is it
Saturday, same day as Martin Luther King?
Gee Willikers. Well, on behalf of myself and everyone here at Nerd Culture, we wish you a happy birthday.
Thank you.
That is amazing. So, how does it? I know it's a bit early, but if you don't mind me asking, how does it feel to be 21 again?
It's incredible. Life just gets better. It's just sad. It's just sad that I've had more than I've got left. You know. But
Okay.
yeah, it's great. Yeah, just have to get on with it. You just have. I mean, the world's gone crazy, as you know, this past couple of years. But the world's always a crazy place, isn't it? So you just have to get on with it. Just try and deflect everybody, and just like I said, back to the writing thing. Write, draw, play your guitar. Just get on with it. You can sleep. Sorry, you can sleep for a long time. You're going to be sleeping a long time, so get on with it. Sorry, go ahead.
No, that's okay. I was going to say I wholeheartely agree with most of those words you just said. No, I probably agree with all of it, but I digress. So to go into something, and I've heard this phrase spoken before, whether it be on this studio, or whether in other shows, that life is better when reading. So I'm just curious, Comics Unlimited.
Yeah.
How did the idea and how did Comics Unlimited come about? And if you're in an elevator with someone, you got to do something known as an elevator pitch for Comics Unlimited. What would it be? Go ahead.
I don't do elevator pitches.
That's okay.
It started out about 14 years ago when a couple of friends contacted me to create a magazine about British comics, and that was called Crikey. It was all about, you probably haven't seen these things, but it's all about comics like the Dandy and the Beano, the like cartoon comics.
Sure.
Rather than Captain America. I know he's a cartoon, but he's real, isn't he? He looks real. Do you understand what I mean? And then we put the Crikey out for 16 issues, and we stopped doing it and all that kind of thing. This is on the Comics Unlimited podcast for further more information. And then a couple of years ago, a different friend and I decided to expand our audience and go worldwide, and we created Comics Unlimited, and it's doing all right. And Ted Davis has just come aboard with us, so we've got a few things planned for the new year. Probably around March, April, and I'm looking forward to working on it. But I do lots of different disciplines, as you say. I draw, I write, I make films. I also design. I design all the pages inside and everything, and end up spending more time promoting somebody else's work than my own, which is not a good thing to do.
Well, that's I can certainly understand that. So for Comics Unlimited, is it for people who are already a bit of a comic book fan, or is it for people who maybe just getting into comics? Where is it aimed at?
Well, both, like yourself, because there's great historical things in there. We've got some we put out a Golden Age special. I think the Golden Age is something like 1939 to 56. And it's got Captain America in there. It's got all these fantastic. It's 100 pages. You can get that on Amazon as well. Golden Age special. So it's for everybody. But what Ted and I are going to do, we're going to introduce more indie artists and writers, try and give them a leg up. But most the main content is the history of. So people like you who are just starting out in comics can, if you check it out, you'll learn a lot of stuff. We have interviews in there. We cover British and American comics, obviously. We're going to do some European and manga and all that kind of stuff. But like I said to you earlier, there's 150 years of British comics, 150 years of American comics to go at, history of. So we'll never run out of things to write about.
Well, that is certainly true. Once again, we're talking with Glenn B. Fleming here on the season premiere of And I Quote. And make sure you're sharing this video with all 700 of your closest friends. They're going to like the way they look after watching this video. I guarantee it. And if you have any questions for Glenn B. Fleming during any portion of this show, let us know in the live chat. Let us know in the comments. We're more than happy to take those as they come in respectively. So another project you worked on in the past, I believe, Encounter. Tell us about, how did Encounter come about?
That book... I've got several, the science fiction book, obviously. I've got several science fiction books up on Amazon and stuff. But that particular one I started writing in 1977. And it stuck around for ages and ages and ages. It went through several different rewrites and everything. And then I was going to, I think it was in the late 80s, I was going to turn it into a graphic novel. But the thought of writing and drawing, adapting it and writing and drawing 84 pages of artwork in colour would have taken me a year. So I had, and I like to eat, so I had to do other real work to do it. And then a few years ago, I decided to just write the prose version of it, and that's what that is. It does have a few bits of artwork in it that I produced. I designed the cover and everything. So that's it's a novella. It's not really a novel. It's a short novel. But I think it's one of the best things I've written. Let's put it that way. I'm really pleased with it, and I'm glad, really grateful that I finally got it out after 40 years or whatever it was, you know. But that's because I'm doing other things as well. So
No, I mean, excuse me, that's understandable. We completely understand that. Now, another project that's gone through some development, it's been here and there, and some things are being remastered or being added to it, I should say. A brand new project you have coming out really soon that we're going to be talking about momentarily. It's really exciting. I'm intrigued by it. For someone who's just starting to get into reading comics, or whether you've been a fan of comics for a long time, it's going to appeal to maybe you who are watching this, but you don't have to take my word for it. Take a look.
The original intention of the film was just for my personal use, but I thought with it being such a unique thing that I'd like to offer it to anybody who wants to see it. On the first visit, Jack took us into his another room, separate room, and there were these brown parcels full of artwork piled up. And he said to me, "You draw like I do." We were in the studio for 5 hours, you know. It was fantastic. And there's this, he's got this desk, and everything he's ever drawn has come from this desk. And then I would just go with the flow, and that's what this film is about. It's just a unique film of him.
He says, "I beat you." He says, "They say we came in under the dead heat." He says, "That's not true because I beat you." And the American said, "Well," he says, "if you like to think so," he says, "but I know the real story." He says, I know I clearly won that one." Well, Joe is 6'3", and I was a run, say, from the Lower East Side. And being Joe's partner was an advantage to me because Joe was believable, you know. They would talk to Joe, and the Goodman brothers would get to know him. Martin Goodman owned Marvel at that time. He went to his mother and he says, "Look, Jackie got a job drawing." He says, "They're paying him for it. They're paying him money for drawing." He says, "Suppose I go with Jackie." He says, and he says, "They'll pay me money." He says, "I'll draw and they'll pay me money." He said, "I'll give the money to you," which we did. We gave it all to our mothers. They called me from Nassau. You know, I lived in Long Island. And they say, "Would you like to come down and draw these guys in training?" I swear, this is not a story. And I said, "Yes, of course, I'd love to come down."
My goodness gracious. If that doesn't intrigue you, I don't know what will. So documentary goes along with the book. My goodness gracious, Glenn, where do we start? I mean, how did this all come about, and how excited are you that this is finally, you know, the documentary along with the book and everything else is finally going to be released very, very soon?
It's a mixed thing. It's one of relief in a way, because I'm finally, when this comes out, I think I'm going to just leave it, not stop. I'll always read Kirby stuff, but I can put it to bed. You know what I mean? I can finish it. But it came about. I used to read Jack Kirby comics when I was a kid and knew all about Jack Kirby and all this kind of thing. And then in the 80s, in the 70s, I dropped them. I went to college and grew up a bit and went around the world and all that. Then in the 80s, I picked up some comics again, and there was a new Jack Kirby comic. And I just read it. It wasn't as good as the old stuff, but it was okay. And I just got to wondering whether he was still alive and things like that, because I thought he must be in his 60s or whatever at that point. Anyway, I went to Barbados on holiday and met these people from California, and we were talking and all this kind of thing. And I'd remembered that in this comic of Jack Kirby's, it said he lived in this place called Thousand Oaks in California. And I said to them, "Do you, just as a joke, really, do you know where Thousand Oaks is?" And they said, "Yeah, it's about an hour away." And I soon learned that everywhere in America is always an hour away. But I told them why. and about Jack Kirby. They didn't know who he was. And so I get this, when I got back from Barbados, there was a letter, and it was from Suzanne, the girl from California. And you know how you meet people on holiday, and you're gonna be friends for life, and then you never see them again when you leave. You know, I thought it was going to be like that. And there was a letter, and she was just saying it was nice to see you and all that. And she said, "Oh, by the way, Jack Kirby says hello." And she said, "And here's his phone number." So I thought this was a joke, and I thought, this is a very expensive joke, because if I ring this overseas phone, this international phone number, it's going to cost me, some money. So I used to come home from work and read this letter every night for about 3 weeks. And my partner at the time said, "Look, why don't you just ring the number? And if it's not him, put the phone down." So I know that sounds obvious, but I used to read this letter. So anyway, so I came home one night and I said, "I'm going to ring this number." So I rang the number, and this lady answered it. And I asked her if she was the wife of Jack Kirby. And she said, "Yes, I'll put him on." And Jack Kirby came on the phone. No sort of warning. No, he was just there. And I spoke to him for about an hour, and it did cost me a lot of money, the phone call, but I didn't care. I didn't care because it was him, So anyway, so I asked him if I could. I told him I was going out to America in that would be about a year's time, and could I come and see him? And he said, yeah. So I went to see him, and then 3 years later I went back, and that's when I made the film. It's a bit the quality is not too good because it was a beaten up old camcorder, but it's still I think it adds to it, really. I think it adds to and it's unique. And the film of talking to him lasts about 45 minutes. And on the DVD that you get with the new book, there's I put the original ad. It was released a few years ago, but I've updated it, and I re-edited it. And it's got the original ad trailer for it, and it's got a Q&A that was held after the private showing at the theatre in my town. So it's I think it's about 2 hours long, but it's a unique thing because there isn't much. I don't know what the Kirby family have, obviously. Well, that's theirs. There isn't a lot. You see him at conventions, and he might be on for 2 or 3 minutes, but you don't really see big interviews with him.
Yeah,
there's one or two, but not many, and it's just great to put it out there. And every time I see it, it just makes me smile because he was just such a nice bloke. And Ros Kirby his wife was absolutely fantastic. She was just gorgeous, and she was just really, really friendly. And you realise, you look at Jack. I mean, I'm 6'1", so I look at Jack Kirby. He's about 5'5", 5'6". He's small, and you think, where do all these galaxies and characters come out of this guy, this little squat tough guy, because he was a tough guy, and it's incredible. And I remember saying when he was in the army in the Second World War, and I bet I don't know, I've never read anything about it, but I would just wonder if those German soldiers met a lot of people like Jack Kirby and how tough they were, and thought, what are these guys, because he really was a tough guy. But so yeah, it was just great to go and see him, and I went twice, so I'm really pleased about that. I try and do things twice when I do things. When I go anywhere, I always try and go twice, because when you go twice, you mean it.
Well, yeah, and then the first time you may have missed out on something, and then you go back the second time, and you can pick up some things you may not have picked up in the first place. So that's
one of the great things about it was that when I went to him the first time, I did a cartoon for him about him and Ros and her coming up with the ideas and giving them to him. And when I went back, that 3 years later, that cartoon in a frame was in his studio. And I didn't ask the question, but I just wonder whether Ros remembered it was me who was coming and got, because I can't believe it was there all the time. Maybe it was, I don't know. But that was it, you can see it behind him in the film as well. So that was pretty neat as well.
Oh my goodness gracious. Well, congratulations on that. It looks great. It sounds wonderful. Can't wait to read it, as well as check out the documentary that goes along with it. And once again, thank you so much for those of you who are joining us in the chat. So many questions are coming. We got a question for you coming in from Julie Alpern. She says, Glenn, I'm a writer myself, but I realize that there are different strokes for different folks. What is one genre in which that you choose not to write in?
Romance.
All right.
In a word. And I don't like books like Lord of the Rings and things like that. I don't like that fantasy spell type of story. You know, I'm not a fan of that kind of thing. I mean, it's very good. You know, I would never read Harry Potter. I should, because it's so popular. I should see what it's about. And I do have the first book, but I doubt I'll read it because I just don't like that kind of, you know, goblins and spells and all that kind of thing. But that doesn't mean that everybody else can't. That's just me.
No, that's okay.
I like science fiction.
Yeah. Okay. All right. Well, that's completely fine. And by the way, in case you're wondering, at the bottom of the screen here, that's scrolling along the bottom, those are links to where you can find Glenn B. Fleming's work on Amazon within the UK or Amazon within the US. So those links are scrolling across the bottom of your screen. And also, we have links to where you can find his projects, everything past, present, and future in the description of this video. So make sure you take a look at that a little bit later on. Now, Julie Alpern also has another question for you. She says, I admire that you spend time promoting other people's work. This is my forte as well. What form of writing or creating do you enjoy the most? And why comics, by the way?
Well, comics have come from when I was a kid and everything, but I used to look at the artwork more than read the words. I did read the words because you need to, but it's the drawings and the sequential art of it, which is like it's on the film. Oh no, sorry, it's not on the film. But Jack Kirby told me, I took him some of my artwork for him to look at, and he said that I drew like he did, and Ross Kirby confirmed this, and it was to do with the storytelling. My drawings don't look like his, but the sequential art, the telling of the story. But I like doing different things. That's why I do that's why I write books and draw and make films. I enjoy having a different job on my desk every day. So sometimes I'll do cartoons, sometimes I'll be planning a film. Excuse me, and sometimes I'll be writing, and I'll write different things. I've got 11 books, I think it is now, published, and they cover soccer, as you would call it, football, World Cup soccer, science fiction, JFK assassination, NASA, and lots of. I've got travel. I like to travel. I went to Easter Island a few years ago. That's Rapa Nui. Wrote about that, and there's lots of the statues that are on the island.
Oh yeah, fascinating.
All these, it's just a fantastic place. It's really strange, really weird place. But that's a book that's out now. But like I say, I like to do different things and keep myself occupied that way. I'm always writing several projects. I'm actually writing. I think it's 5 different books at the moment. 2 science fiction, another travel, my trips to New York, and a couple of other things as well.
New York. Sorry, I got a song stuck in my head now. But anyway, Julie Alpern has another question for you. Is there a difference in humor, et cetera, within the comic writing of British versus American comics?
Yeah, I would say that, because I say things on these podcasts and people pull the faces, and I'm only joking. So there's obviously, what do they say? We're separated by a common language. So my humor might not go down so well on American podcasts, but it does on the British ones. So yes, there is a difference. Yeah, but that's great, because that means we're not the same. That's the best thing.
It's okay to be unique and different. We're all different. We're all different human beings. That's for sure. What's on my bookshelf maybe not be on yours, but that's good. Right. That actually segues into the next question from Julie. She says, "Tell some of us curious people, what books are on your shelves in the background of your studio?"
Science fiction, football, NASA, space flight, science fiction books. Got a series about Vietnam. I cover a lot of things. I like to read. I've read about, I think it's close on 700 books in my life. I like to read. Gosh. I usually read just before I go to bed for an hour, and I can read. I'm currently reading a book about Francis Coppola, the film director.
Ooh, yeah.
And the book before that was about Quentin Tarantino. And then before that was a science fiction novel. So I like to change things around.
There's a lot of variety, I would say.
Yeah, I think the best thing I ever did was learn to read. I think reading is an amazing thing. It's because you just open your mind. I mean, when I used to do a lot of research on JFK thing. I remember this is about 40 years ago now, and I went into the main library in my town, And in one afternoon, I could be in Texas, then Washington, and then Saigon, and then Cuba, all in one afternoon reading there, because these things that the links would take you to these places. Do you understand what I mean? And I just like reading. It's the best thing.
I mean, hey, I'm wearing a T-shirt right now that says "Life is better when reading." # Those are the facts, man. Just the facts.
Yeah. Yeah.
So, which I completely understand. No, when you bring that up, it kind of reminds me of when I used to go into my local library and I would check out these things called VHS tapes, which were, kind of old school. And they had different locations, like National Geographic goes to this place, or National Geographic goes to Africa, National Geographic goes to Paris, or National Geographic goes to a place called Rome. All these different. And I'm watching these documentaries, even though they're showing us just, images, or they have footage of what these places look like, different places, different lands, different attractions. I'm watching these and I'm thinking to myself, I literally just took a trip to Paris through this video, watching this video, or I took a trip to Rome, or I took a trip to Barcelona. Or I went to another place, but you catch what I'm saying.
When I was a kid, I was fascinated with the world and cultures and things like that. So if I read about Egypt, I would get a map.
That's a good one.
And find out where it was, and then I would look what was next to it, and then I'd read about that country. Like if you look at Egypt, directly underneath, I think it's Sudan or Ethiopia, one of those, I can't remember. So I would read about that, and they all intertwine, and it's a fantastic thing. When you learn, when I read a few things about the Second World War, because my dad was in that, he was a paratrooper, and I've written a book about that. And he landed in Normandy, and he went to Belgium, he went to Germany, he went to Denmark. So years ago, when I was a kid, I didn't know where those places were. So when he would tell me, and I would find out how he would get there. Like to get to Denmark, they didn't do a parachute drop into Denmark, so he had to get on a truck in France to go through Belgium, through Netherlands, up to Denmark. Just little things like that. And I like connecting all the places together. So it's the book I wrote about my dad's thing was 8 Seconds, it's called.
Oh, there it is. Oh, wow.
And that it's called 8 Seconds because it took him, when he jumped out of that aircraft, it took him 8 seconds to get to the ground. That's how low they were. They were supposed to, they would normally fly at 2,000 feet. But if they did that, they'd been shot down. So the pilots went really low, and he jumped from 500 feet, and the parachute would literally just break his fall.
Oh my gosh!
8 seconds, and So and I've got here.
Oh yes.
I can just show you this. This is the artwork I painted for the cover.
Yeah. I was going to say the front cover of that book, 8 Seconds, looks very good.
That's the original artwork.
Oh, there it is. Yeah. Oh man, that is very good. It's very detailed, I would say.
Yeah. And then the book is illustrated as well. I just did spot illustrations throughout the book. Again, I was going to do a graphic novel, but like I said to you before, spending a year doing the same thing would just about kill me. So I just did spot illustrations that appear inside.
Oh wow! Look at that. That is amazing.
And what I do is, you see, I bore everybody to death with this, but I draw on board.
Oh, okay.
With a pen and ink and all the kind of stuff.
And
there's a whenever you do, I'd say to any aspiring artist out there, when you create a piece of artwork and you're not happy with it, just put it to one side. Don't destroy it, because I did this drawing of my dad with he was a brain gunner, a machine gunner. I did this drawing. I was really unhappy with it because I spent a couple of days on it. So I literally threw all this ink on it because I was sort of angry with it, and I spent all this time, and it turned out to be probably one of the best drawings in the book.
Oh my goodness. That is amazing. That is amazing.
So never throw anything away. And as before, when people are writing and you're not really writing anything, keep it. Keep everything. Never throw anything away. And that, because I always keep stuff. I keep everything. And that's what's a lot behind me. It's all just files and my work. I just never throw anything away. I've got in my archive, I've got about I don't know, couple of thousand cartoons, just sheets of paper with cartoons on, because I never throw anything away. The earliest stuff I've got is some superhero comics I drew when I was 14. And
Sure.
also I was drawing lunar modules when they were landing on the moon and all this kind of thing. So I've still got those, so just keep everything. Never throw anything away. However bad you think it is, keep it.
Some good advice right there. By the way, Ted Davies Artistry chimes in. He says, Glenn B. Fleming, the Renaissance man.
Yeah, that's what they say, yeah.
Yeah. That's, I mean, my goodness gracious, that's what she's going like. By the way, Julie agrees with something we said about earlier. She says, I don't mind a good Renaissance first, but yes, I'm not a big fan of spells and stuff and certain other genres of writing that you spoke about a bit earlier.
Yeah, I mean, it has its place, and I would never put it down. But it's just that I don't like that kind of stuff, because people are always going on about Lord of the Rings to me. Excuse me. And there's a funny story there, because a friend of mine, he was saying how good it was when the films came out.
Mm-hmm.
And I said, I won't watch it. I just not into it. Anyway, he came in one day at work and he gave me the 3 films on DVD on the Friday, and he said, I want a full report on Monday morning. So on the Saturday, I watched them all back to back.
9 hours.
9 hours, yeah.
9 hours.
And I went in on Monday morning and he said, what do you think? I said, I sat down 9 hours. I'll never get that time back again.
Wow.
Because that story could have been told in one film. But
that's it's kind of a good point. That's why I like the Fellowship of the Ring so much, because it's for me personally. And by the way, for the person who is watching this, you may think differently, and that's okay. For me, the Fellowship of the Ring is the best one because it introduces you to the world. It tells you what's going on, who the characters are, what the goal is that they have to achieve. The MacGuffin. In this case, it's the One Ring, Frodo. So you basically, I'm thinking to myself, a 3-hour movie, you can tell. I mean, granted, the books are probably much longer than this, which they probably are, but still. I would have been fine with one of those 3. If Fellowship of the Ring was the only one that came out, I would have been satisfied, because to me, that's a solid fantasy adventure film. 2 Towers, Return of the King, they're fine, but for me, Fellowship of the Ring is the OG, and it's the best. And by the way, happy belated 20th anniversary to the Fellowship of the Ring. It just turned 20 back last year.
You see, I have a problem with this, because we have a writer called Enid Blyton. I don't know whether you've heard of her. She's from the 30s and 40s, right? And she writes these sort of whimsical stories about.
Sure.
They call the Famous Five. So these 5 kids, and they go out and have adventures. And they almost make me laugh, because my sister had this Famous 5 book, and she said it's really, really good. So I open it, and it goes like this. It says contents. It goes 1, 5 have breakfast. 2, 5 go for a walk in the woods. 5 get lost in the woods. 5 get kidnapped. 5 return home safe. What's the point? So Lord of the Rings has Return of the King. Well, we know he's coming back, don't we? What's the point?
Spoilers.
That's just stupid.
Is it a spoiler? Probably not, but still, I digress. No, hey, listen, fair point. Some people write in similar styles. Some people have similar. I mean, listen, everyone has ideas that have stemmed from things that they've seen in their own lives, and that's understandable. And there's not necessarily anything wrong with that. But you bring up a good point about, could have done without this, could have done without that. My goodness gracious. And Julie brings up something. She says, the artwork is fantastic. I agree. Although I was back into the was it Richie comics? I did also like the superpowers when I was younger.
Right.
Oh,
yeah, well, everything. I mean, let me show you this. I like to draw science fiction.
That's fair. About what Julie just said.
As I say, I drive everybody mad because I draw on board and use traditional stuff. But this is from a book called Iapetus Rising, a science fiction novel, which is out now.
Oh, there it is. Oh, okay. All right.
And Iapetus is one of the moons of Saturn, and this guy's stranded on it. So I just like drawing stuff. And
nothing absolutely wrong with that. I mean, Julie chimes in. She says, I completely agree that it's cool to have a passion that is different each and every single day of your life. Yeah,
that's right. And I'm fortunate and grateful for that, because all through my career, I've designed brochures and written copy and taken photographs and made films and all this kind of thing. So basically, like I said, I mean, it's not literally a different job every day, but a lot of the time I'm drawing children's books and this kind of thing. And, I'm the only thing I've not done is make $10 million, but it's never really about that, is it?
That's a nice round number. By the way, Julie says, I am in awe of your ability to write on such various topics.
Well, I just like to. I've just got. I don't know. I've just read a lot, and I'm creative, I think, and I go down these routes, and I really enjoy it. I'm really fortunate. I've got this guy coming out in March, cartoon strip.
Hatch.
This is the second book. The first book's on Amazon. You can get it. This is the second book. And again, it's on real board, and it's done with ink and everything. And he's a little guy. He's stranded on an asteroid, and it's all quite funny. It's a bit of a comedy show.
Wow,
this is the cover, by the way.
Oh, wonderful! Congratulations once again. We're talking with Glenn B. Fleming, a person who is there's pretty much. I'm not sure there's anything this young man hasn't done yet in his young career. But if you want more information, the links that are scrolling across the bottom of your screen are to the Amazon in the UK as well as Amazon in the US. If you want to pick up any and all the projects that we have discussed that Glenn B. Fleming has put together himself or been a part of, and all that wonderful stuff. Julie says, I have relatives over in England, and I visited them and attended their local comedy clubs and could not understand it back in the heyday, but I love a lot of British comedy shows. Fun fact. Goodness gracious. Good stuff, Julie. Oh, she says, oh my goodness, 700 books plus. Glenn, that's amazing. And what are the sorts of people and passions that they have with which you like to surround yourself? You are such an intriguing young man, Glenn.
Young man.
According to Julie.
Thank you.
That's what Julie says here.
I just I don't know. I'm just getting on with my own stuff, really. People think I'm a bit, I don't know. My brothers and sisters just can't work out where I'm coming from half the time. Not that they read the books. I'll tell you what they do. When I publish a new book, they always get a copy, and the first thing they say is it signed? Not, oh wow, thanks. And they don't read it anyway. They just want to know what it's like. For when I'm really famous, you see, that's what they're thinking. So I said, well, don't hold your breath, because as we were saying before about Lord of the Rings, I wish my book was as successful as that, or what's he called, Harry Potter. I could
that would be J.K. Rowling's book.
Yeah, she's great.
Which I believe is who you're referring to. Yes, with the Harry Potter franchise. I'm trying to keep all these writers in line. Sometimes it's easy, sometimes it's not. My goodness gracious. By the way, Julie says, Quentin Tarantino, Francis Ford Coppola. I love all that stuff. Do you pattern any of your documentary films or any other films after their styles?
No, that wouldn't be the right thing to do. But I do like to write dialogue. I've been told I write good dialogue, and Quentin Tarantino writes the best dialogue, doesn't he? Have you seen Inglourious Bastards?
Yes, I have.
The part where the German goes to see the French guy at the beginning, that dialogue is amazing.
Oh, it's about 15 the very beginning long. Of the film?
Yeah, the Monsieur Lapidite, the French guy goes to see him.
Got it, yeah.
And he's that bit. And the other piece, the fantastic dialogue, is in, is it True Romance, when Christopher Walken goes to see Dennis Hopper?
I know you know who they are, so tell me, before I do some damage you won't walk away from.
That's right.
Sorry, that's my best attempt at a Walken impression. I'm not sure if it was very good, but hey, listen, if you agree or disagree, let us know in the chat. Love to hear your thoughts. So one of the few lines I know from that movie, because I have not seen True Romance all the way through, so I cannot really comment nor speculate on the quality of the film.
Right. Well, it's that's the best part for me. That 10 minutes is incredible.
Oh, 10 minutes.
It's to do with the acting and the direction, and the whole thing comes together. Well, the dialogue is amazing. But I don't write like that. That would be wrong. I think what you do when you sort of growing up, you do sort of emulate people because you like them and admire them, but you soon find out that your signature will come through, and put your own stuff on it, and take it the way you should. You shouldn't be thinking, I wonder what Quentin Tarantino would do with this. You should be thinking, what am I going to do with this?
Right. Absolutely. And Julie chimes in. She says, it's funny how I need people to remind me of the beauty of reading a book in order to get in on that. I got to research before I get to visit certain countries. 2022, I would love to eventually travel and do some more traveling. Well, hopefully when Earth reopens a bit more, and Corona Miley Cyrus gets the heck out of Dodge, then maybe, just maybe, we can go back to being fully human. And by the way, Julie says, thank you, Glenn, for your dad's service. There you go.
Yeah.
Awesome stuff. And Julie has a very intriguing question. To how many countries have you visited, Glenn?
I don't know.
Oh no, Julie's going to be left hanging. That's okay.
I don't know.
That's okay.
I've been all around Asia, Europe, North and South America, but I've not been to Africa and I've not been to Australia. But I want to go to Japan. I'd really love to go to Japan.
Ooh, yeah.
But I trekked across India with a friend of mine.
Oh, you did?
We got arrested in Iraq by Saddam's finest.
Oh boy.
Held for several hours with a AK-47 in the belly. We went to across India, which was there for about 6 weeks, I think, which was quite amazing. We went to see Taj Mahal and all that kind of thing. Amazing place.
Yeah, yeah. And one of the
Sorry, go ahead.
No. I'm sorry. I wasn't sure. I'd go right ahead.
I was just going to say that what you need to do, in my opinion, what I've done is, to me, it's no good. I saw India. I didn't go to the tourist place. You know, there's a place called Goa on the west coast, and people go there to lie in the sun. Well, I don't see the point of traveling for 12 hours to lie under the same sun I can lie under in Spain, which is 3 hours from me. There's no point. So I think that, so when I went to America, I've been to America about 20 times, and I've been coast to coast, I've been on Greyhound buses, I've seen a bit of the different places, because I don't know how traveled in America you are, but for instance, Texas is its own country. The people in Texas are totally different than the people in New York. Now you could say that about anywhere, but I found that traveling across all those places and meeting all the different people, that's the way I like to do it. I mean, don't get me wrong, if I could go first class everywhere, I would, but I don't do that. I tend to I try and go to see the place, you know.
Understandable. And once again, we're talking with Glenn B. Fleming here on the season premiere of And I Quote. Make sure you're sharing this video with all 800 of your closest friends. They're going to like the way they look after watching this video. I guarantee it. If you have any questions for Glenn, feel free to drop them in the live chat. Leave them in the comments down below. Also, the links that are scrolling at the bottom of your screen, those are the links to the Amazon over in the UK, as well as the Amazon in the US. If you want to buy some of the things that Glenn B. Fleming has published and put out, and all the new things that are coming down the line. So those links are right at the bottom of your screen. They're also located within the description of this video. So make sure you take a look at that when you have the opportunity. Julie chimes in and she says, 8 seconds sounds amazing. All of the work you had to do for that. However, how am I going to have time to read all of these books? I don't know. Laugh out loud.
Well, what you've got to remember is this, you see, is that people have been on other podcasts know that I don't sleep a lot. And
probably not.
So I don't. So I mean,
you know,
I really don't.
Who needs sleep anyway? Sleep exactly. Is overrated.
This is my philosophy. You see, you know, you're dead a long time. So if you want to read that book, read it. What's stopping you? Read it. Find the time. It's like anything. If you want to do something, you'll find the time. It's as simple as that. So if you want to read a book, well, read it then. And if you want to travel, I know it's difficult at the moment, but if you want to travel, do it. You don't need to fly everywhere first class and things like that. I mean, nice to. I've done it a couple of times, but most of the time I'm in the back of economy and with my knees under my chin, you know, and flying for 12 hours. That's part of it.
Oh, there you go. More praise coming in from the chat. Julie says, Glenn, you are such an artist, both in written and in the paintbrush. Wow, I am just in awe of you. That looks like a photo that she was referring to earlier when you were going over the 8 seconds artwork and the hatch stuff and all that stuff. So a little bit on the you know, few moments ago side, but hey, Carl, good to see you. He says, dang it, I'm late. Yes, Carl, you are. You didn't set your alarm. You didn't wake up when you were supposed to, but that's okay. That's what the replays are for. You can always go back and watch something later. It's okay.
This artwork here, can I show this?
Oh yeah, sure.
I'm doing another science fiction book called The Amazing Mr. Kuiper.
Whoa.
And this is what I do. I was going to do a graphic novel, but it takes too long, so I do illustrated books now. And this is one of the things from it.
Oh my goodness! Look how unique that is. That is amazing, by the way.
So I like to put a little bit of detail in there, you know.
Yeah, there is a good amount of detail. You have the character, you have a bit of the smoke, you have the planets and the moons and all that stuff. I mean, I'm fascinated by stuff in outer space anyway because I like looking at pictures from Hubble. So there you go.
Well, you can see me colouring this on YouTube if you want to watch it.
Oh.
There's actually a film of me colouring it. But yeah, I just like doing these big spreads. I really enjoy doing them.
There you go.
So it's all good fun. And what I'll do is I'll do some drawings for some days, and then I'll do some writing, and I'll think about do some storyboards. I just did some storyboards for a singer, a country and western singer in Nashville, Tennessee. So I did storyboards for a film for his record.
Wow.
So
goodness
like
gracious.
I said, a different job for a different day.
Yeah, different projects all over the place. Julie says, thank you so much for recommendations on holding on to all the things I've read and all the good stuff, et cetera, et cetera. I'll keep them electronically, but I have all these journals that someday I will make into a book, perhaps. Yeah. I am so inspired by you, Glenn. Thank you, says Julie Alpern.
Well, that's great. That's nice to influence people, but yeah, keep it all, because sometimes you'll read through it and you'll find a germ that you didn't see in there, and you can build an entire book on it. But just keep it. Plus, keep it for the archive. Keep it for the kids and the grandchildren and the human race for later. Just keep it all. That's my philosophy. I've got tons of stuff in files, and I can't even remember what most of it is, but it's all there. It's all. You can actually see the evolution of it, because a lot of it is handwritten, and then it's on a typewriter, and then it's on a computer. So you can see how the technology has taken over, and it helps.
Goodness gracious. And Julie says the story you got coming out, Hatch, is adorable.
He's great. Well, I'm working. Hopefully he's going to be an animated film, Hatch. That's another project to do.
Oh my. My goodness. Got so many things going on in the pipeline. Julie says, have you made any of your comic books into cartoons? And please forgive me if I didn't see that within your bio earlier.
I don't understand the question. Have you made any comic books into cartoons?
I think what she means is, are any of your comic books going to be adapted into a cartoon series? I think that's what she's getting at. My apologies.
Oh, well, that's what we just said. If she means animation, yeah, I'm hoping to get Hatch into animation. Yeah.
Yeah.
So that would be really something. I wanted. It's funny because when I was at college millions of years ago, I wanted to be an animator. And it's probably the only thing I haven't done. I've done a couple of little short things, but nothing to sort of put around. And it's the only thing I've not really fully realised. I've turned into an artist and a writer and a painter and a cinematographer and all this kind of thing. But I want to complete the Hatch animation, little short film with him, 15 minutes. Got some great ideas for that. So hopefully I'll be able to get that done soon, whenever.
There you go. And Julie has another question. She chimes in. She says, what is the one project that you have not gotten to do as of yet? And what's on your bucket list for this year of 2022?
Well, there's lots of things on the bucket list, because like I said, I've got several science fiction books. I've got another children's book that's waiting to come out that was finished. And I've got Comics Unlimited is a regular thing. And I've got lots of ideas about other things. The one project I would say, I'd have to think about it, but I'll say the animation of Hatch.
Oh, okay.
Because like I said, I've not done much animation. It's an area I would like to get into. Because I think he's made for animation. It's just the what he gets up to and stuff like that. I see him animated all the time. So hopefully I'll get around to producing that.
Well, that is most certainly understandable. It's most certainly fair, as far as I know. By the way, 10 Davies Artistry, I don't know if you ever heard of him, but he says, great work, Glenn. Hatch is absolutely the best.
Yeah.
The best.
Yeah, I like Hatch. He's good. My wife writes him with me. She comes up with the concept, and I write it. She comes up with some great ideas for him, and so she has her name on the book too.
And that is absolutely incredible. Julie's just firing away with all these questions. She says, Glenn, are you the black sheep within your family, such as myself? I'm the creative one, and my brother and my father are the number crunchers. Does that make sense to you?
Yes. My elder brother, he's a very, very successful businessman. He's retired now. And he just can't, he looks at me and he just, it's like I've got three heads. He just can't work me out at all. And he doesn't understand. I'll give you an example of what he did. His son, my brother asked his son,
yes,
his son what he wanted to do when he was 15. And he said, I want to do what my Uncle Glenn does. So my brother immediately packed him off to business school to learn how to own the business.
Oh.
Now, I have owned businesses, but what he meant was working on the drawing board because he's quite good at art. But my brother's thinking was, well, you don't make any money if you do that. You've got to own the business. So, that's about it, really.
Gee willikers, my goodness. And Ted Davies says, Glenn, always a pleasure to see you brag about your talents. Laugh out loud. All the best, my brother. Looking forward to what you have in store for us for 2022. Way to go, Ted.
The thing is, you see, if you don't, it's all about promotion. If people, if you don't tell people what you can do, nobody's going to know, are they? Simple as that, isn't it?
God.
Yeah.
Oh my goodness gracious! I don't even know where to start with that. But anyhow. So Glenn, here's something for you. The next set of questions here. This episode of And I Quote, and every episode of And I Quote, I should say, is indeed powered by Poddex. Now, Poddex are the hottest new tool for podcasters looking to gamify their podcast to have more meaningful conversations. You simply shuffle up the cards, you ask a question, you let the content roll. Get yours today at poddex.com, and make sure you use that promo code NerdCulture to get 10% off your order. You're not going to want to miss it. Trust me. So Glenn, first things first, I know we're only 8 days into the new year of 2022, but what is the best thing to happen to you so far this year?
Waking up, because it means I've been asleep, which is very rare, and also seeing my wife.
There you go.
Because she's gorgeous.
There you go.
Fantastic.
Right on, man. Simple to the point. What upcoming life event are you most excited about in 2022?
My Kirby book finally coming out because it was delayed from last year. Hatch and the Soccer World Cup at the end of the year.
All right. A few things happening there, I should say. What instantly makes you not like another person?
Rudeness, I think.
Mm-hmm.
It doesn't take me long. I don't know about everybody else, but when sometimes you can see there's an agenda going on, and people attaching themselves to you because they think you're probably more than you are. They think they ally themselves with you because they think you've got something.
All right, that's a fair point. Now, would you choose a shorter life and be super rich, or a longer life, somewhat poor?
Oh, yeah, somewhat poor. There's no point. I've never done any of this really for money, other than to eat. I mean, I'd like $20 million. Who wouldn't? But because if I had $20 million, I would just be traveling all the time. Because I've got an idea for a book, and it's a unique idea, and I'm not even going to tell you what it is. But I need in the next 2 years to travel, and just travel, and that costs money.
Yeah. It does. But hey, you're taking it one day at a time, and that's all any of us can do, right?
Yeah.
So all good with that one. What is one surefire way to grab your attention?
My attention.
Yes. What would you say to that?
I don't know. There's different things, isn't there? Grab my attention. Intelligence and honesty. Don't be a mug. Don't try and tell me what I'm doing. Tell me what you're doing. Don't tell me what I'm doing. Do you understand what I mean? Yeah. Intelligence. Mm-hmm. Same with a woman. The best women, speaking as a man, are the intelligent ones.
There you go.
Probably alienates me, but I don't care. That's what you asked me the question, and that's the answer.
No, that's okay. And we appreciate your answers to all the questions we have presented to you thus far. Julie chimes in. She says, what would you say that traveling has taught you about life, or how it influenced, or had an influence, I guess, on your writing besides writing about countries? What do you think?
the diversity of people on the planet. We get rammed that we're all the same, and we're clearly not. And that's really interesting, because I like to go to places and I like to fit in rather than try and change that country. You know, so many people come to different countries and want to live in the old country and change the new one. Well, you should embrace the new one. That's why you went. And I've been around the world. I've been through several cultures. I didn't appreciate being pulled off that aircraft with those Saddam's men. Didn't appreciate it at all. But it shows you what some people are like. And that's only those 4 or 5 guys. It's not the entire country, but you know. So it's experiences, the experience of going somewhere. The 2 most important things to me are learning to read and travel.
There you go. There you absolutely go. And Julie chimes in on that. She says, Glenn, I'm even more inspired by you. I agree that to really get a taste of country, one needs to see all levels of existence, not just the tourism side of things.
Yeah. I've been in some tricky spots, believe me, tricky spots with my travels. But I'm not reckless, I don't think. Maybe sometimes I have been, but I'm not reckless. But I don't go for the safety aspect, because otherwise I'd just not go out the front door, you know. If you've got to be prepared. And I thought I was prepared for India, but when you get there, the culture change, the shock is incredible. You see it on the TV, you see the news. When you get there, you wouldn't believe it. And you've got to adapt. It must be like, I imagine it's like being in a war. My dad was 19 when he jumped out of that C-47. He'd never been past the end of his street before he was called up. And he's jumping out of an aircraft into a war. Now, if that doesn't shake you up, I don't know what would. And I think you've got to adapt quickly, otherwise you're not going to make it back.
Fair point. Fair point. And my goodness, you young lady, Julie, you just don't stop with your questions for the superstar known as Glenn B. Fleming. Her question is, I have to ask you, what's a day in the life for you, Glenn? And is it the same every week? And how exactly do you have time to relax? And how do you get into what is known as the writer's zone? Do you have practices that help you get into that sort of mindset?
Well, not the same. Yeah, it's pretty much the same. I'm writing, drawing, I'm doing the same things, but not at the same time. How do I relax? I talk to my wife. We have a glass of wine. I watch football. I watch the odd soap and the odd documentary on the TV and all this. I'm always in a writer's zone. I can break. If Helen, my wife, let's say she gets a phone call. And she's talking, and I know who it is, and I know it's going to be 15 minutes. I will get up and come to my studio, and I'll look at something, what I'm doing, or I'll write something. So I'm always in the zone. I just don't do it all the time. If I'm on an aircraft, I'm always thinking about something, you know. But so no, I don't have to. I'm not saying that when I do that and what I do is any good, but like I said to you before, you just write, just do something, even if it's only notes or little things you picked up, little one-liners. I've got a book somewhere on the shelf that's got all little ideas for stories over the past 40 years, and they're just one line, and I can get into that, and I could write a story about that, and sometimes I do.
That is truly amazing, and that is a great talent, if I do say so myself. We want to take this opportunity to thank Glenn B. Fleming for being our guest on the season premiere of And I Quote for 2022. We got so many great episodes coming your way, so many wonderful guests coming your way. But in the meantime, Glenn B. Fleming, where can the person who is watching this find you online and everything you have coming up? What do you got?
If you go, I'm on Facebook, I'm on Twitter, Instagram. Not so much on Twitter and Instagram, but Facebook, yeah, you get me. Just put me Glenn B. Fleming in there, you'll find it. I've got several pages about Jack Kirby on there and Comics Unlimited, things like that. I'm on YouTube. Again, just put my name in, you'll find stuff. And I'm just building my new website because I had my website. I won't tell you what it was called because my domain name expired by I think it was 12 hours. I forgot to renew it, and when I went back to get it, some Japanese porn site had taken it from me. So if you put my name in there,
Jeez.
you'll be surprised. But it's not me. So I'm building a new website now. So I'm going to be launching that soon. But Facebook's probably the best place if you want to get in touch.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely, absolutely. Once again, thank you so much, Glenn B. Fleming, for being our guest here this week. We really appreciate it. Once again, my name is Ryan of Nerd Culture. You can follow us on all forms of social media simply at It's Nerd Culture. New videos are being posted on our YouTube channel each and every week and on all forms of our social media. So make sure you like, comment, share, subscribe, do all that stuff. And once again, And I Quote is on Saturdays at 12 p.m. EST. Also, our new show that has been dropping the last few weeks, it's called Boba's Weekly Bounty, where we dive into the latest episode of the Book of Boba Fett. That is Thursday nights at 8 p.m. EST right here on our YouTube channel, as well as on our Facebook, our Twitter, our Twitch. Once again, all the links are in the description of this video, so make sure you check that out as well. And a special event that is coming up in just in a matter of a few weeks is, in fact, the Multiverse Fundraiser, January the 21st to the 23rd. It's going to be on the back of the Cereal Box Podcast Network. All the proceeds are going to be donated to the Valerie Perrine Project. Valerie Perrine played Miss Tessmacher in the Christopher Reeve Superman films. So she's going through some health battles right now. We want to support her as best we can. We got panels. We got all kinds of stuff. And it's a virtual convention that you can watch from the comfort of your very own home. We got special guests such as Noah Wiley from The Librarians, ER, Falling Skies. I mean, speaking of someone who's done a gajillion things in his career, he's going to be in the house. Sarah Douglas, who played Ursa in Christopher Reeve's Superman 2, she's going to be there. Anthony Rapp from Star Trek Discovery, as well as Adventures in Babysitting, one of the greatest films of the 1980s. Yeah, you heard me. Adventures in Babysitting. It's a real thing, folks. Look it up. Also, Camille Mitchell, who played the sheriff on the greatest comic book TV series of all time, known as Smallville, as well as many, many other special guests are going to be joining us that weekend. You are not going to want to miss that. You're going to like the way you look after attending that event. I guarantee it. Goodness gracious, that was a mouthful. But like I said before, like, comment, share, subscribe, do all that stuff. Thank you so much for being a part of this episode of And I Quote. These wonderful things that we do here, we do it for you. This is made possible by viewers like you. Not to sound like something from the 1980s, but hey, there's nothing wrong with throwing in some throwback stuff in there. It's And I Quote. We say things, we quote things from different mediums, different sources all the time. But listen, in the meantime, on a serious note, I want to say this. Stay healthy, stay strong, stay safe, and always remember that life is better when reading.
The original intention of the film was just for my personal use, but I thought, with it being such a unique thing, that I'd like to offer it to anybody who wants to see it. On the first visit, Jack took us into his another room, separate room, and there were these brown parcels full of artwork piled up. And he said to me, "You draw like I do." We were in the studio for 5 hours, it was fantastic. And there's this, he's got this desk, and everything he's ever drawn has come from this desk. And then I would just go with the flow, and that's what this film is about. It's just a unique film of him.
He says, "I beat you." He says, "They say we came in under the dead heat." He says, "That's not true because I beat you." And the American said, "Well," he says, "if you like to think so," he says, "but I know the real story." He says, I know I clearly won that one." Well, Joe is 6'3", and I was a runt, from the Lower East Side. And being Joe's partner was an advantage to me because Joe was believable. They would talk to Joe, and the Goodman brothers would get to know him. Martin Goodman owned Marvel at that time. He went to his mother and he says, "Look, Jackie got a job drawing." He says, "They're paying him for it. They're paying him money for drawing." He says, "Suppose I go with Jackie." He says, and he says, "They'll pay me money." He says, "I'll draw and they'll pay me money." He said, "I'll give the money to you," which we did. We gave it all to our mothers. They called me from NASA. I lived in Long Island. And they say, "Would you like to come down and draw these guys in training?" I swear this is not a story. And I said, yes, of course, I'd love to come down.